All right, folks, welcome back. I'm still discussing diverse issues that are not exactly related to, no, I shouldn't even say that. I was going to say not related to politics, but that's not true. What I do here, as you all know, those who follow this channel, is discuss the solutions. You know, I like the problem and then prefer the solution to the socio-economic, socio-political challenges that confront us in Nigeria. Like, for example, the phenomenon of poor leadership, poor political leadership. How can we solve that problem? Because that's the singular factor that is preventing Nigeria from maximizing our potential. And I discussed that that's what my book is about essentially. That's what I discussed extensively in chapter 7. In chapter 3, for example, I pointed out what the challenges are, you know, the what the challenges are with regards to quality of education, with how economic opportunities are created. No, that's a solution. I discussed the problem in chapter 3, like what poor education, poor quality education does. When the quality of education is poor, the effect of it and how it can be remedied. And what causes our electricity, for example, is the foundation of industrialization. You cannot industrialize any society without electricity, right? So I discussed the how electricity is a major factor in development, as well as how quality education is a factor. And then I looked at I discussed the three sectors of any society: extractive, manufacturing, and service, and how economic opportunities can be created in all these sectors if this is done. This I discussed in my book, but essentially, leadership is our problem. If we get our leadership right, the sky will be the limit, or maybe the sky would even be the starting point for Nigeria. But what I want to discuss today is not directly that, or sorry, in this series, this is, like I said, I don't know if I said it when I started, I'm discussing diverse issues. So what I want to do in this unit, in this particular video, is this phenomenon that I've been observing for quite some time now. And it's getting to the point where I just thought, okay, I'm just going to talk about it. Nobody is talking about it. So I want to discuss it, I want to talk about it, I want to draw people's attention to it, because sometimes people do things that are not ideal, things that are not right, things that are not cool, things that don't make sense, but they don't realize that what they're doing is nonsensical. If they actually give it thought, they'll realize that, oh, really, I shouldn't do that. And it's this phenomenon of, people whose parents will assets to them. People who inherit the assets of the parent, who then sell it off. I've seen that happen a lot of times. But before I delve into that, let me say this first. And it's to individuals who continue to acquire and amass assets, properties, things, money, material things, money, houses, land. You continue to amass all these things, but all your children, you sent them abroad. All of your children, 4 of them, 5 of them, 6 of them, 7 of them, as the case may be, they all live abroad. For some, right out of secondary school, they send them away. For some others, it's after university. Once they leave university, they send them off abroad to go and do masters, and those ones say bye-bye to Nigeria. Nigeria becomes that place they don't want to visit. Nigeria becomes that place that is You can't blame them. Nigeria is, it's a difficult country to live in, all right? I'm the first person to say that um, life isn't exactly great elsewhere, but Nigeria is a difficult country. I'm not going to deny the fact that Nigeria is a difficult place to live in. So these people, these individuals, they continue to acquire material things, but all of their children live abroad. I don't know what they're thinking when they're acquiring, or because they tell you to real money. They acquire these things, but these children that you claim to be acquiring them for, you've sent them all abroad. And even before they've gone abroad, you haven't raised them in a way to have an African mindset. I could say Yoruba mindset, but I don't want to reduce this to a Yoruba conversation because it cuts across all ethnic groups in Nigeria. And I also do not want to say that it's just a Nigerian thing because I know I've seen Ghanaians do this as well. Acquire things and then you look at them, all of their children are abroad. So in old age, they have to live by themselves. They hardly see their grandchildren except they travel. So why are you acquiring all these things if you haven't raised your children as Africans? And then your children, when you die, when you get really old and then you go to the great beyond, you return to from whence you came, and they're going to sell off everything you've willed to them. What then was the point of all the acquiring all these things if your children are going to sell it off the minute you're buried? Why then have you acquired it? So ask yourself this question. For those who are already aged, it may be already too late. People who are over 80, over 90, who are still alive but have acquired things and all your children are abroad. Maybe you've never thought about it. But what do you think is going to happen to all those things that you've acquired when you're going? If you don't know and you perhaps haven't been observant enough to know that these children sell off your assets. They sell them off without a care. About a month ago, and this is not the first time this has happened, about a month ago, a friend's mother had died and we had gone for the funeral, and during the course of conversations, I just casually asked. I had no intention. I had nothing at the back of my mind. It was just a casual question. Like, that's your father's big house. What are you guys going to do with it? And my friend just turned and said, we're going to sell it. My heart sank. Why? Because it was not the first time I heard it. That wasn't the first time. We're going to sell it. And I wasn't surprised because, like I said, it wasn't the first time that I heard that kind of a thing. It's been many times. Why are you going to sell it? This time I didn't say anything, but the first time ever that someone said that to me, when I'm like, dude, that house is so, it's such a big house. What are you guys going to do with it after your mom dies? Because the mother was still alive, and that first time I heard it, that first instance when someone said it to me, the mother was still alive. I don't know if the woman is still alive, and I haven't spoken to that person in a while. So I just said, oh, your dad is passed, your mom is aged, so what are you guys going to eventually do to this house? It's such a lovely house. When I'd gone to see her at home, before the funeral in that instant. And she just said, we're going to sell it. And I'm like, why? I actually asked in that case, I'm like, why? She turned to me and said, what are we supposed to do with it? True, because none of them lives in Nigeria. They all live abroad. So what are they supposed to do with it? She asked me. In her shoes, I'll put a tenant in it. That's what I'll do. Why would I want to sell my file? Why would I want to sell something that was willed to me? Why? But I can understand why a person who lives abroad would want to sell assets they have in Nigeria. Because maybe they need the money. If you need the money, well, yeah, it's understandable. So you just sell one thing, not everything. But I've seen instances where everything was sold because the children do not live in Nigeria. So that's one side of it. There's this other side of it. I've discussed those who live outside of Nigeria who sell assets that were bequeathed to them by a parent or by their parent. Now, there are those who also live here who also sell. In these instances, when these ones are selling, it's usually those ones who the cases I've seen, the people involved think they are struggling, that they need the money. But believe me, you don't. Especially where there are many of you, if there are like 6 of you or 10 of you and it's just one house, by the time you sell it, maybe you have to split the money as many ways as there are beneficiaries. So if there are 10 of you and you split, say 5 million, okay, you sell, that particular house was going to be sold for 12 million, I think, and you sell the property for 12 million, how much are you getting? How much are you getting? You're not getting anything substantial that can in any way impact your life in a meaningful way. So you're selling it. You're selling that asset that was bequeathed to you by a parent is actually a dunce idea. The reason why you've done it is maybe because you haven't done the CBA, what is known as CBA, cost benefit analysis. If you weigh the cost against the benefit, you'll find that there is no benefit. It pays you to keep that asset in the family and collect rent. I have known a person who sold an asset in the middle of town to go and buy land in Shesabobni, Ikorodu, deep inside Ikorodu. Should be Ikorodu. If you go to Ikorodu now, you can get to Ikorodu right after Mile 12, right? But this was deep, like you're going to Oko Ijebu. And I thought to myself, this person I don't know, I don't talk to, but I was aware that we're going to sell that property, and the plan was for her to go and the particular person who was pushing them to sell, there were many of them, the asset was willed to. But she was the one who was, according to her, broke. I think she actually lived in one wing of the property. I don't quite remember. Maybe she lived, I think it was about, I don't know, maybe 4 flights. She lived in 1 flight. The other was, I don't remember the detail, but one was struggling. One of the beneficiaries of the estate was struggling, and she thought the best thing to do was to sell the asset. They split the money 4 or 6 ways. You get maybe 1 million. You go and buy, you get whatever you get. Maybe you get 2 million. You go and buy a plot of land. This is a long time ago. You go and buy a plot of land and you build something in it, but you moved away from the middle of town to go and live in the bush because you say that you don't want to continue to live in your father's house. But it was bequeathed to you. It's yours. You're supposed to keep it in the family. Like it was passed on to you. You pass it on to your own children or your child, who then pass it on. I mean, that's how you preserve. That's how you preserve that's how you preserve your family legacy. That's how you preserve the legacy of your parent. They worked so hard and then they bequeathed this thing to you. I don't think parents bequeath. If they wanted it sold, they would have sold it in their lifetime and give you the money now. Don't you think? I don't know, maybe it's about time parents begin to include in their will that their assets should not be sold. Maybe parents should begin to consider that. Especially those ones, all of them, the ones whose children are all abroad, and even the ones who are here. Maybe that, what do we call it now? That clause needs to be inserted in wills. I understand that sometimes you need to sell off things, but you can't be selling off everything. You can't be selling off everything. Shares you can sell, yes. I mean, that's the point of shares in the first place. You know, the shares appreciate, the capital gain, you know, you take the capital gain when the share appreciates. You can sell off everything, or just, you know, take off the chunk, the capital gain, take off the capital gain and retain more like the original investment or the capital. But how do you sell off everything that was bequeathed to you? I've known cases where everything was sold. Everything was sold. Now, to draw this to a close, those who live abroad, I mean, those who live here and sell off, that's your loss. You sell off your assets, it's your problem. You sell off your assets in the middle of town only to go and buy land in the bush because you don't want to be seen as living in your father's house or living in your mother's house. It's yours. It's been willed to you. Stop having that shallow mentality of what would people say. You're not a murderer. You haven't killed anybody. Don't let shame and guilt ruin your life. Don't let shame and guilt cause you to make stupid decisions, take stupid steps. Your father has the inherited property. The property that was bequeathed to you is in Ilupeju. You sell it and go and live in Ikorodu. Why? How? Why? Who gave you that kind of advice? You sell it. The money that gets to you, you won't be. I mean, the one who is even able to go and buy a land in Ikorodu is the one who is lucky. Many cannot account for the money. They don't know what they use it for. Something else that I've seen people do. People who send their children abroad using all of their resources to send their children to school abroad. I don't think that should be a fad anymore. I don't think that should be that should be a fad. When I was young, it was like the fad. You finish secondary school, you go off abroad. Money still, though, I mean, Naira was still strong then. But in this day when $1 is 1,000 plus, I don't think anyone should be doing that. I understand that the standard and the quality of education across the board of Nigerian education system is low. You can send your children to neighboring African countries now. People already send their children to Ghana. Why send your child to the UK or to Canada or where else, the United States? If you can send the child to Ghana or to maybe Kenya, where you spend a fraction of what you would spend or you're spending sending that child to the UK or to Canada or to the US. You use all of your life resources. You don't yet have, you have a piece of land. You haven't been able to develop it. And you're spending hard currency to send your child to school abroad. I tell you, with the way the labor market is now globally, all of that investment you dumped in that child can't be recovered. Unless that child is going to, that child can't do a 9 to 5 and be able to, he's able to recover the money you've invested in this day and age. Unless maybe the child is going to start, I don't know, become a hustler, become a virtual criminal, or start to sing. But if your child is going to sing, why then go and or become an actress? Why then go and spend that much money? Why not send them to drama school or send them to music school in Nigeria or neighboring Ghana or wherever, as opposed to spending so much money and you're still a tenant somewhere. You're still struggling to even parent. It's not wise. It's not good. Not in this day and age when even Europeans themselves are saying that higher education, that degree, universities, especially in humanities, is a waste of time. If it's in STEM, fantastic, because STEM is the future. Innovators innovators are the ones who are able to amass to themselves huge chunk of money. You invent things, you create things, you innovate, you create things. That's why even musicians are able to, you create a thing, you create the kind of thing that everybody can buy. People across the ocean from you can buy it. They can buy it virtually, music, books, creative endeavors. All right, so yeah, if you're creating things, if you're studying STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics, cool. But for humanities, I don't see why anybody, for accounting that now computers can do, I don't see the reason why anybody should go and be spending huge sums of money on such degrees while you are seriously struggling. I don't see the point in that. But the thing I wanted to say before I got to that, I hope I haven't forgotten it, is this. I've touched on people who are local, who are selling assets bequeathed to them. I've talked about parents who acquire things and send all the children abroad. Yeah, it's these people who parents bequeath things to, who then turn around within the space of a year and sell off all of those assets. Why are you not doing that? If you're sensitive, yeah, and you're paying attention to geopolitics, nobody knows what could be happening in the next 2 decades to 3 decades. Nobody knows. You don't know if you may need to return home, even if it's temporary. But when you sold off everything that was bequeathed to you, how are you going to get by? If your father or mother or parent bequeath properties to you and you live abroad, what's wrong with you putting tenants there? What's wrong with you handing those properties over to a property management company to manage for you, to run it for you, to put tenants in it for you? What's wrong with you turning some of them into, depending on which part of town they are or which part of the country they are in, if they were residential and they can be converted to commercial use, what's wrong with that? Why can't you turn some of these houses, like I said, depending on which part or area they are in, if you can run, because there are places where if it's residential, you're not allowed to run businesses there. But if there are no such restrictions, what's wrong with you turning it to a boutique hotel, a commercial space? No matter how little the returns will be, it would help you preserve that property in your family. Why would you sell your father's asset? Why would you sell your mom's asset? Why would you sell something your parents toiled for and then you just fling it within a year of their death? And your reason is that you don't live in Nigeria. How do you know you're not going to need to return to Nigeria? Not for any horrible reason, for a negative. You don't know what the future holds. You may need to come back here. Your children may need to. But when you sold everything that you own, then you're going to buy again or you're going to rent. Ẹ jẹ́ ká máa fi ọpọlọ làákàyè ká máa fi ṣe gbogbo nǹkan tá a bá fẹ́ ṣe nílé ayé. Just when you make decisions, just don't think about now. Factor the future into it. Because oftentimes we don't know what the future holds. I hope I've made sense. And until I come your way again, it's Yetunde Olokun saying